Welcome to part one of Justin Baldoni's October 6th deposition. I will not be reading the first few pages simply because that is when the lawyers are introducing themselves, as well as all the other folks that will be part of this deposition. We start off with Miss Shaw. Good morning, Mr. Baldoni. Good morning. We met a minute ago. My name is Ma'aren Shaw, and as you heard, I represent Stephanie Jones and Jones Works in these related cases. Can you tell me, have you ever been deposed before today? No. Have you ever testified in a court of law before today? No. Let's run through some of the ground rules for depositions so that we can all be operating on the same wavelength. Do you understand that you're under oath today? The same effect as you would be in a court of law? I do. And you are required today to give full, complete, and truthful testimony. Do you understand that? I do. Is there any reason you would not be able to give full, complete, and truthful testimony today? There is not. Is there anything that would impede your ability to recall past events while you're testifying today? No. During the course of the day, I'm going to be asking you questions. When you answer, if you could please give audible answers as you're doing now so that the court reporter can get an accurate record, that would be appreciated. I will do my best. And we're going to try for the benefit of the court reporter to both speak slowly and if you could do me the courtesy of trying to wait for my question to be finished before answering. And I will try to wait for your answers to be finished before asking another question. That gives us a cleaner record. Deal. All right. Your attorney may be objecting today. If your attorney objects, unless she instructs you not to answer the question, you are still required to answer the question. Understood. If you need to take a break for any reason, please let me know. This is not supposed to be an endurance test, but I would ask that you please wait if there is a question pending until you complete your answer, and then we can take a break after that. I drink a lot of water, so we will be taking regular breaks throughout the day, but if you ever need one and the attorneys don't call for one, just let us know. If for any reason you don't understand any of my questions, please let me know, and I'm happy to rephrase them. If you answer my question as stated without asking me to rephrase it, can we both assume and understand that you understood what I was asking when you answered it? Yeah. Can you tell me whether you did anything to prepare for your deposition today? Yes. What did you do? I worked with my attorneys 3 days or so this week. Which attorneys were those? Alexandra, Jonathan, Mitra, Teresa. A little bit with Brian. Yeah. Other than the attorneys that were present, was there anyone else there while you were preparing for your deposition? No, not while I was preparing. You said 3 days this week. Were there any other sessions before that? No. Approximately how long each of the... Wait, is today Monday? Yes. 3 days last week? Last week. Okay. Approximately how long did you prepare on each of the 3 days last week? 4 hours. It might have been 4 days, but for 4 hours or so each day. Including like lunches and bathroom breaks. Were these in person or Zoom sessions? In person. Okay. Did you review any documents to help you prepare for this deposition? Just say yes or no. Yes. Did any of those documents help refresh your recollection or memory of the events that you'd be testifying here today? No. Okay, are you aware of whether all the documents you reviewed in preparation for this deposition were produced in this case? I would assume so. Okay, did you go back through your phone in preparation for this deposition and review anything on your phone? No. You've attended either by Zoom or in person some of the other depositions that have taken place in this case, is that right? A few, yes. Can you list them for me, please? I will try. In person was Miss Lively. On Zoom, never full depositions, but in part, Jennifer Abel, Melissa Nathan, Stephanie Jones, Jenny Slate. I listened to a little bit of Isabella Ferrer, Angie Gianetti, Alex Sachs, Josh Greenstein, and a little Colleen Hoover, and I may be forgetting someone. How about Katie Case? A little bit of Katie Case. Thank you. How about Brianna Butler Coslow? No, I don't believe so. Have you read, apart from attending or listening into some of the depositions in this case, have you read the transcripts of any of the depositions in this case? I have not. Have you read the transcript of Katie Case's depositions? I have not. Prior to this deposition, apart from speaking with your attorneys, did you speak with anyone else about the subject of your deposition? No. You didn't speak to Jamie Heath about it? About the subject of my deposition? Or the fact that you would be having a deposition? Oh, yes. Sorry, I misunderstood the question. I thought you meant like the content of my deposition. No problem. Anyone else? That I would be deposed? Sure. Jennifer Abel, my family, my wife. We had a prayer gathering last night with a lot of friends, so they were aware that I was being deposed. But that's all I can think of at the moment. Yeah. Did you speak to Melissa Nathan about your deposition at all? I have not. Did you speak to Steve Sarowitz about your deposition at all? I did speak to Steve Sarowitz. We were together here at his deposition. When you spoke to Steve Sarowitz about your deposition, was there an attorney present? Yeah, yes. When you spoke to Jen Abel about your deposition, was there an attorney present? No, that was over the phone. What did you discuss with Jen Abel about your deposition? It wasn't a conversation about the deposition. It was like, you're going to do great. And she was letting me know she was going to be there, but there was no content that was discussed. Anything else? She might have said, just to keep being honest and shine your light, or something to that extent. And when you spoke to Jamie Heath about your deposition, was there an attorney present? Jamie and I speak all the time, so it may have come up at one point when it was just us or our families together, but I don't know. Can you recall anything about your conversations with Jamie Heath about your deposition at any point in time when there were not attorneys present? Most of the relationship with me and Jamie is bolstering each other and just reminding, like a brother reminds who I am. I can't think of any other details. It's more like positive encouragement. These are pretty intense things. So kind of like a friend or a coach, or you got this. Have you spoken to Jamie about his deposition? No, I'm first, so it's been focused on mine. How would you characterize your relationship with Jamie Heath? He's one of my best, closest friends. How long has he been one of your best, closest friends? I've been married, I would say 15, 14 years, maybe 14 years. Were you friends before you began working together, or did you work together before you became friends? We were friends before we began working together. How would you characterize your relationship with Jen Abel? She was my publicist first, but then I mean, I like to think of the people I work with as friends, so I would have considered her a friend. I think through this experience we've gotten closer, but I would have considered her my publicist. And how would you characterize your relationship with Melissa Nathan? A friendly publicist who, we don't know each other very well. I think this is the second time we met in person, but like everyone else in this case, that I think that the bond of being in the situation we're in has brought us closer together, but friendly. Prior to the deposition, did you have any role in helping to gather your documents, emails, texts, voice notes to be produced by your attorneys as discovery in this case? Can you ask that again? Sure. Are you aware that some of your documents, text messages, emails, etc., have been given to the plaintiffs in these cases as part of the discovery process? Ms. Shapiro says don't answer that to the extent it calls for information provided by your attorneys to you. Justin says yes. Back to Ms. Shaw. Did you have any role in helping to gather those materials? Back to Justin. I think so. What was your role? I had to hand over my phone multiple times to, I don't know, I think they're called like data scientists. That's what I can remember right now. There were, I think I had looked through for various emails. I don't remember the content of, to just make sure that people had everything, or text that people had everything they needed. What is your preferred method of communication? Ms. Shapiro, objection. Back to Ms. Shaw. I don't mean in an existential sense. I mean in a practical sense. Do you like to text? Do you like to email? Do you like to call on the phone? It depends. Am I in a lawsuit or not in a lawsuit when I'm communicating? Let's start with a lawsuit. Okay, text, but I'm pretty bad at it these days. So do you use Apple iMessage to communicate, write text message? Yeah. Do you use email to communicate? I get a lot of emails, but I'm not good at responding to them. I do respond at times, but it's generally pretty short. Do you use WhatsApp messaging to communicate? I'm on WhatsApp's threads with various people. Do you use Signal to communicate? Since the lawsuit, I do, yeah. Before the lawsuit? No. Since the lawsuit, who have you used Signal to communicate with? Mostly my attorneys, the people that are defendants, some friends. Do you use Telegram to communicate? No. Do you ever send voice notes? Yeah. Do you ever record phone calls that you're a participant in? I certainly have from time to time. Do you do that frequently? No. Did you record any phone calls or Zooms with the participants in this case? In which case exactly? Either the Blake Lively case or the Stephanie Jones case. Yes. How many times would you estimate you recorded the phone calls or Zooms? 2 to 4. Maybe 4 times. Maybe. Might be 3. Am I correct to understand that's 4 times ever that you recorded phone calls or Zooms with any of the participants or witnesses or people involved in the events that underlie either of these litigations? I don't do it often, so I imagine it was around 4, 2 to 4. I'd have to take a lot of pausing to really think about that, which I think is between 2 and 4. Why don't we say 4? How about in-person meetings? Ms. Shapiro, objection. Back to Justin. One that I can think of. Back to Shaw. What is that one? I recorded an improv acting session between Jenny Slate and Miss Lively. That you were also a participant in? I was. Where were you located when you recorded that? At our production offices in Hoboken, New Jersey. Where was Miss Slate located? In New Jersey. She was with you? Yeah. Where was Miss Lively located? I assume she was at her house, which is in New York. Other than that one in-person meeting, can you think of any other in-person meetings that you recorded that involved any of the participants in the events underlying these cases or had anything to do with the events underlying these cases? Ms. Shapiro, objection. Back to Justin. At the moment, I can't. Back to Shaw. Are you aware that your counsel produced to us last night 4 recordings? Back to Shapiro. Objection to the extent it calls for information provided by your attorneys. Back to Shaw. That appear to be recordings by you or phone calls or in-person meetings having to do with this case. Ms. Shapiro, same objection. Justin, I would imagine that they would. Shaw. Are you aware that they were produced last night? Ms. Shapiro, objection, directing you not to answer anything to the extent it calls for information you only know from your attorneys. Justin, I can't answer. Shaw, are you going to follow your counsel's instruction? Yes, ma'am. Do you recall recording a phone call between you and any of the following: Ange Giannetti, Josh Greenstein, or Todd Black? Ange Giannetti. I don't know if Todd Black was on it, but I know Ange. Yeah. Tell me what you recall about that phone call with Ange. I haven't listened to them. What I recall is feeling scared. Also, um, and almost feeling like what was happening was like I needed a witness. Because what was happening was just it felt kind of crazy, but I don't remember the content of the call. I assume it had to do with figuring out how to get through a difficult shoot. What was it at that time that felt kind of crazy to you? I don't know exactly what call or when it was recorded, so I don't know if I can answer that without more details. Do you remember why you recorded that call? Again, I just need to know what call you're referring to. Do you have a memory of a call that you recorded with Ange Giannetti? I have a vague memory, yes. With respect to that call that you have a vague memory of, do you have any recollection of why you recorded that call? I think I felt powerless and scared and kind of lonely, I think. What did you intend to do with that recording? Nothing. I didn't know if I would ever need it one day. Have you needed it? I haven't looked at it or listened to it, so apparently not. Did you tell her that you were recording the call? I didn't. Where were you located when you recorded the call? I don't know. I would have to know the date on the recording and then I could try to reverse engineer it. From your vague memory of doing this, give me your best estimate of where you were located. I don't know. Is it possible that you were in California? Miss Shapiro, objection. Back to Justin. It's absolutely possible. Shaw. Where was Ange located when you recorded that call? I assume she was in California. Do you have a memory of recording any calls with Josh Greenstein? No. Do you have a memory of recording any calls with Todd Black? Only if Todd were on a call with Ange. Where is Todd Black located? Miss Shapiro, objection. Justin, like right now? Shaw, no, in general. Where does he live and work? He's often in New York. I believe he lives in LA, but he's often shooting movies. Does he maintain an office in LA? I don't know. Do you recall ever recording a call with Stephanie Jones? No. Do you ever recall recording a call with Jen Abel? I don't. Do you recall ever recording a call with Melissa Nathan? No. Other than the one improv session where Jenny Slate and Blake Lively were present that we spoke about, do you recall ever recording a call with Blake Lively? No. Do you recall ever recording a call with Tim Miller? I don't know who that is. Okay, other than that one call that we've spoken about that you recorded with Ange Giannetti, you said you might have recorded 2 to 4 calls relevant to these litigations. Do you remember any others? Yes. Meaning, okay, sorry, please tell me about them. Do you want to finish your question? No, it's all right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know it's all right. I was trying to ask a better question, but do you mind re-asking the question? Other than the one call we've spoken about with Ange Gianetti, do you recall recording any other calls? Yes. Okay, please tell me about those. I recorded part of a call with Shawn Levy. Who is Shawn Levy? Shawn Levy is a director and apparently a very close friend of Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds. What do you recall about that call? I recall he wanted to speak to me, and as we began talking, I got the feeling that he was calling to kind of adjust or course correct, which made me feel a little uncomfortable. Adjust or course correct from what? I didn't know. What do you mean when you say adjust or course correct? Just explain that to me a little bit more, please. It felt like he was being asked to call me, like he wasn't just calling to talk or check in. And what was he calling you about? The movie It Ends With Us and Miss Lively? Was he calling you about the tensions that were arising in relation to that movie? No. So what about the movie It Ends With Us was he calling you about? He was calling to give me advice, it appeared, on how to handle or navigate making a movie with Miss Lively. When in time was this? I could be wrong. I believe it was April of 23. Where were you located when you recorded the call? At my office in New Jersey. Where was he located when he was speaking to you on the call? I don't know. Did you inform him that you were recording the call? I did not. Other than these two calls we've now spoken about, one with Ange Gianetti and one with Shawn Levy, can you remember any other phone calls that you recorded? It's not something I do often, so no, to be precise, I can't. Does Jamie Heath often record phone calls to your understanding? I'm unaware of what Jamie does on his own time. Does Jamie Heath ever record phone calls in the course of his work for Wayfarer to your understanding? I don't know. I know he has, but I don't know if it's a regular practice. How do you know he has? Because I'm aware of at least a recording. Which recording is that? I'm aware of a recording of a WME agent or conversation that happened. How did you become aware of that recording? I believe I was told. By whom? I don't remember, but I would assume Jamie. Why was he telling you that he recorded that call? I can't speak to why he was telling me. Did you have any understanding from what he said to you of why he was telling you? Yes. And what was that understanding? I believe we were being threatened. By whom? By Mr. Reynolds and Miss Lively. Were you on that call? No. Do you know who was? I know someone from WME. I presume to be my former agent. I think Jennifer Abel was on the call. Anyone else? There may have been assistance on the WME side, or I'm not sure. When you say your former agent at WME, do you mean Danny Greenberg? I do. Was your understanding of that call that it was a call between Jamie and Danny Greenberg? I actually don't know much about the call, so I can't answer that. To your understanding, how were you being threatened at the time by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds? My understanding was that there were demands being made that I release some sort of public statement that had been drafted by Mr. Reynolds and Miss Lively and given to an agent. And I've been told there were multiple calls that were incoming from the agency, saying that if Justin doesn't release a statement, then they will, Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds, will leave William Morris. I was told that the agency called numerous times, and this evidently was a phone call on which a statement was read that was prepared by Mr. Reynolds and Miss Lively. And the only other thing I remember about it was that it was inferred that if this wasn't done, the gloves would come off. When you were told, let's start with this, when were you told about that phone call? I presume hours after it happened. And when were you told that the phone call had been recorded? I feel like early 2025, I think. Have you ever listened to that recording? I have not. Do you know where Jamie was located when he made that recording? I would assume in Los Angeles. Do you know if he informed any of the people on the call that he was recording it? I don't. Do you know where Danny Greenberg was located during that call? I don't. Do you know where Jen Abel was during that call? I wasn't there, so I don't. Can you describe for me in your own words what you do for a living? That's a good question. I'm a filmmaker, an actor. I've been an author. I hosted a podcast. And I am part owner of a studio. I guess I'm an entertainment entrepreneur, maybe. The part owner of a studio, the studio you're referring to is Wayfarer, is that right? Yes, ma'am. What is your percentage ownership of Wayfarer? Somewhere between 20 and 25%, I think. And the remaining ownership, is that held by Steve Sarowitz? Yes. Does anyone else have any part ownership in Wayfarer? There are. I'm not sure contractually if anyone does, but there are. I know that there are two. There might be three people that have like promises of equity or ghost stock, or I don't know if anything's been formalized. Who are these? Who are those two or three people? Jamie Heath, Ahmed Kolache, and Tara Hanks, I believe. Going through each of them, do you have an understanding of why they've been promised ghost equity or some sort of promise of equity in Wayfarer? I believe so. Can you tell me? I will start with Ahmed. Ahmed was my former partner at Wayfarer Entertainment, which was a small production company that I had started years ago, and he's an independent producer now. But I didn't feel like I could have started Wayfarer without his help with Wayfarer Entertainment, so I gave him a small piece of my own equity. Jamie Heath took a low salary compared probably to a lot of other folks that has lived and breathed the company, and Steve and I felt he deserved a small piece of equity. And I'm still unsure if Tara Hanks officially has any or that any was promised, but when she joined, I think it was discussed, but I don't have a full memory of it. Would you say it's accurate that you and Steve Sarowitz co-founded Wayfarer Studios? Yeah, I think so. When did that happen? I believe officially it was around the time of the pandemic, so early 2020, but I know it was starting to happen. Like there were conversations in 2019. I just don't know the exact like date the papers were signed or things like that. And how did that come about? The starting of Wayfarer Studios? Uh-huh. I had always wanted to have the means to create movies that I thought could make a difference and help people, and Steve had a very similar worldview, and he wanted to make movies that could help people too. So we started Wayfarer. How did you come to know Steve Sarowitz? I first met Steve when he was making a film called The Gate. It was a story of the Bab, who was a central figure in the Baha'i faith. And we were introduced because he said he didn't know what he was doing and he needed some guidance. And so I helped him out and we became friends and we have a shared faith. Do you know approximately when this was that you were introduced to him? I don't. I feel like maybe 2016 or 2017. Would you say there's a common thesis or mission at Wayfarer Studios behind the types of projects that you take on? That's something we aspire to. What is it? To make movies that make people feel, films that can help people heal. We can bring people together, help people recognize their shared humanity. How many films has Wayfarer made? I'm going to fail this test. Does that include films that we didn't make that we invested in? Yes. And why don't you explain to me which are which? Our business model is a little fluid in that we will finance and make films, and also we will join other films that are being made and then finance them, or be minority partners in films if they need like finishing funds. I don't know. This is my answer, unfortunately. Sticking with the number of films that Wayfarer has financed and made itself, can you give me a rough number or list any of them? Financed and made. I feel like we're in the, again, I can't be held to this because like I'm going to guess in the 15 number. And then in terms of films that Wayfarer has invested in or provided finishing funds for, can you give me a rough number or name any of them? Garfield, Angry Birds, there are a few others that I just can't, I apologize, I can't think of the names right now. In terms of the 15 or so films that Wayfarer has financed and made itself, can you give me any names? Sure. Clouds, and these also aren't us alone. We had partners in a lot of these. Clouds, Nice Indian Boy, Code 3, The Senior, Empire Waste, Black is Beautiful. I think it's called Blackballed. Eleanor the Great, It Ends With Us. I forget the name, but it's a film about the effects of the illegalization of marijuana. But I don't remember the name. That's what I got right now. 5 Feet Apart? That was not Wayfarer Studios. Who did that film? CBS Films, but Wayfarer Entertainment got a production credit, but there was no financing. Is Wayfarer Studios profitable? I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know how we would quantify that. I don't believe so. Are you the co-chairman of Wayfarer Studios? I am. Do you hold any other titles with respect to Wayfarer Studios? I do not. And what are your responsibilities as co-chairman of Wayfarer Studios? Mostly thinking of the future direction of where I would like to see the company going. I assist with creative. That's pretty much it. Do you have any responsibilities with respect to the financials of Wayfarer Studios? No. Do you have any responsibilities with respect to the day-to-day operation of Wayfarer Studios? No. Would you say that Sarwitz is the money guy and you're the creative force behind Wayfarer Studios? Sarwitz is quite creative, but I think that would be a fair observation or summary of how the relationship started. Has that changed over time? Somewhat, I believe. Steve's gotten much more involved in the creative, and I think yeah. Do you have any responsibilities for Wayfarer's contractual relationships? No. Do you ever review contracts before Wayfarer signs them? No. Do you have to approve any of the contracts that Wayfarer enters into before they're entered into? No. Do you always star in the films that Wayfarer produces? No. How many of them have you starred in? One. It ends with us? Yes. Do you always direct the films that Wayfarer produces? No. How many have you directed? Two. Which ones? Clouds and It Ends With Us. How long were you a working actor before you founded Wayfarer Studios? I've been a working actor for, well, I didn't work this year, but if we include this year, 20, 21 years. And this is embarrassing math. 2019, 5, 6, or so, 15 years or so. You've mentioned a shared faith with Steve Sarwitz. What faith is that? The Baha'i faith? How did you come to the Baha'i faith? I was born into the Baha'i faith, and then at 15, as is customary for all Baha'is, I was given the choice to decide if I felt I was a Baha'i. We believe in the independent investigation of truth. So the idea that we don't just become something because our parents are. So at 15, I decided that I was a Baha'i. Do you think the tenets of that faith influenced the mission or thesis behind Wayfarer Studios? I believe so, yeah. How so? As Baha'is, we're told that our work should be a form of service. And so I've always operated with the belief that whatever it is that I do, whether it's in entertainment or anything else, I wanted to find a way for it to be of service. And with Wayfarer Studios, we just wanted to apply some of those same tenets to the studio. The idea that we can create things that elevate consciousness in some abstract way, but without being preachy, and with very universal themes like the elimination of prejudice, the belief in equality, the telling of stories that maybe don't always get told because Hollywood doesn't maybe feel that they are worth telling. So, in that sense, I believe that our faith has influenced. Over the course of your career or otherwise, have you ever received or been through any media training? I went through some media training on 5 Feet Apart. I'm not sure if I did any media training for It Ends With Us. I don't believe I did. Other than when you went through media training in relation to 5 Feet Apart, can you think of any other times where you've received or been through any media training? As I sit here right now, I can't. Over the course of your career or otherwise, have you had any formal acting training? Like acting classes? Yes. How about directing? No. Over the course of your career or otherwise, at any time, have you ever received or been through any sort of leadership training? I think I've had coaching, but I can't think of any formal training. Can you describe for me that coaching? I can't remember much about it, unfortunately. Do you know about when that was? In my 20s, my late 20s, maybe? And other than this leadership coaching, have you ever been to any leadership seminars or programs? Like as an attendee? Yes. I can't think of any right now. And any other role than an attendee. I started speaking in my 30s, and I don't know if I ever spoke at one or not. Do you know a gentleman by the name of Labid Aziz? Yes. Who is he? Labid? Yes. Was the original COO of Wayfarer Studios. And when did he cease operating in that role? I think about a year into his role. Was he a good COO? I'm not sure I'm qualified to judge what a good COO is. Did you ever have any concerns personally with him in his role as COO? I did. What were those concerns? I felt he would often promise things in deal making that weren't possible. He was a bit of a wheeler and dealer, and there were certain instances where I did not feel he was telling the truth. Can you identify any of those incidents for me? I just remember getting phone calls saying like Labid said this or Labid promised this and being very confused because that wasn't something that he could be promising. It was important to me that we were always honest and that we didn't enter into deals with people and make promises that we couldn't keep. And I didn't always feel that integrity didn't always feel he operated with that integrity. Can you give me any specific examples? The one I can think of right now is my dad is also in the entertainment business. He was one of the founding fathers of what is called product placement. And I always wanted to work with my dad, and it's a sweet relationship. But I remember my dad told me that he had promised Labid, or Labid had promised him, that he could build out an entire product placement division of Wayfarer Studios and that he would be put on a salary. And I think he got my dad's hopes up, which my dad, was 70 and that wasn't ever part of the plan. And I didn't like that he was promising things to even my own family. And yet I believe that he thought that he could maybe do those things, but they're the the proper protocol was not followed of like, do we want to build a division? So I didn't feel like that was honest. That's what I can think of right now. Other than that, can you think of any other specific examples? I can't. Okay, I think now is probably a good time for a break, if you would like. I have to pee, so that's great. Miss Shapiro, I just want to put on record, I should have done this before, that we're designating the entire deposition confidential pursuant to the protective order. Shaw, understood. Shapiro, thank you. The videographer, we are going off the record. The time is 10:21 a.m. The videographer, we're back on the record. The time is 10:49 a.m. Well, I'm stopping it right here. So check out part 2.